ॐ स्थापकाय च धर्मस्य सर्वधर्मस्वरूपिणे अवतारवरिष्ठाय रामकृष्णाय ते नमः। वसुदेवसुतं देवं कंसचाणूरमर्दनं देवकी परमानन्दं कृष्णं वन्दे जगद्गुरुम्। So we are already in the 6th chapter of Shrimad Bhagavad Gita, the chapter which deals with meditation. So gradually we will enter into the section where it starts dealing with the meditation. But before that, as in the last class, we have started a topic which discusses the distinction between a novice and an adept. What's the distinction? In very plain words, that in our spiritual life we find that when I feel like my mind is extremely distracted, it has to be focused, it has to be equipoised, it has to be in a state of tranquil. We understand that. But immediately we understand that the most challenging job in the world is to keep the mind at peace. Though I know that's the way for my fulfillment, but I find that the biggest enemy of mine is the uncontrolled mind. No one else can be even a bigger enemy than that. The uncontrolled mind is the biggest enemy. And it takes a gradual practice to discipline it, calm it, focus it. So what are the steps? At the beginning, I find that it is almost impossible to sit down and meditate and at my will to bring the mind at focus. So I try my best in the fixed hours, in the morning, in the evening, to give some time for my meditation. That's good. But rest of the day, I resort to action. I try to practice contemplation in the world of action. That whatever actions, whatever work I am doing, I try to be present in that moment itself, fully focused. It's easier to keep the mind focused on work than to sit down and meditate. So if we keep our mind focused on the work, try to forget the past and the future, and just to be in the present, we will find that's the biggest difficulty. The biggest difficulty is to keep the mind focused in the present. Constantly it is dwelling either in the past or it is anticipating the future. Constantly. If we make it a point that let me try to keep the mind in present. Why? Because dwelling in the past has no purpose. What has been done has been done. Simply repenting on it is not going to change it. There is no replay button in life. What has been done has been done. So let the dead bury the dead, as Swami Vivekananda used to constantly say. Need not worry about it. Neither we think of the future. However we go on worrying about the future, we will find that the future is very unpredictable. As Swami Vivekananda used to say, that the only thing predictable in this unpredictable world is death. That today or tomorrow or some years later, that is waiting for us. That's the only thing I can predict. Nothing else can be predicted. However I may try, the future takes its own course. As Thomas A. Kempis in the Imitation of Christ very nicely mentions, man proposes, God disposes. Everything we will find. As we age, we will find that however we may plan, has life really taken its course as per my plan? Never. However we may plan, we will find the life has its own way. So why just waste our time constantly predicting the future? If we have any control, we have the control over the present. This moment, what I am going to do, where I allow my mind to dwell, there I have certain choice. So why not try to keep the mind in present, if not possible by sitting still and meditating, at least at work. That's much easier. And if I am doing some work which doesn't need total engagement, like our daily course, cooking, sweeping, cleaning the house, all those work can go on with the least engagement of my mind in something creative. So what we can do? We can keep the mind in the contemplation of the divine. The work can go on. You will find a wonderful thing that when I sit for meditation, it is so difficult to meditate. But throughout the day, if I have tried to work with this attitude, be at present, if possible, keep it in the thought of the divine and go on with your activities, you will find that you have done the preparation for the meditation. Now you sit for meditation. As you have already disciplined the mind will get focused easily. So now for a novice, we will find that action is something which is indispensable. So has to resort to action. Action is two types. One is mental action. Even when I'm trying to meditate, I find my mind is getting distracted. To bring it back to the thought of my focus is itself an action. It's not a physical action, but it's a mental action. It speaks of rajas, activity. Again and again, I'm trying to withdraw my mind and bring it to the object of my focus. So there's the mental activity or the physical activity which I am doing. Even in that, I'm trying to keep my mind focused. So I find that action, karma, is something which I cannot simply relinquish as a novice. Either the mental activity or physical activity has to go on. In the process, when I go on dwelling with my life, by trying to be in the present, by trying to be the instrument in the hand of the divine and offer all the actions to the divine, try to communion with the divine at each and every moment of my life, try to feel the presence of God in each and every activities of my life, you will find your mind now gets habitually equipoised. You need not have to work on it. It has become the state of your existence. Then shall I leave work and just simply go on meditating? Bhagavad Gita never says that. That when your mind is equipoised, there is no need to resort to action. Neither there is need to relinquish action. As Swami Vivekananda says again and again, that we neither relinquish nor we try to get engaged in the action. Seek not, avoid not. That's should be the mantra of our life. Seek not. Don't go on chasing after ambitions after ambitions. Seek not. Be equipoised. Be happy with the life in whatever situation you have been placed. I'm happy with it. And whatever role I have to play, I play with the full ability, with the full capacity. I just play all my roles. I don't avoid that. And that's how the life goes on. So once I have reached the state of that equipoise. So if I have no actions, well, I can sit and contemplate. If I have actions, I need not have the need to avoid it. I engage myself in the action, keeping my mind equipoised, because it is already in the state of equipoise. It doesn't get disturbed, whatever may be the external situation of life. We will find in our life the maximum suffering comes from the reaction, not from the circumstance itself. The circumstance itself may not be favorable. Maybe it's very unfavorable circumstances. As per the perception, as per the feeling of the suffering is concerned, it constitutes a small part of our suffering. You find in our life the major part of our suffering is how we are constantly reacting on that situation of life. This reaction is the thing which gives us the majority portion of our suffering. There's a nice story I read in Reader's Digest long back, that a person went to a recluse, to a hermit in his hermitage, and he was relating the sufferings of his life. Constantly he was relating the suffering, that how life has betrayed him in so many ways. And after relating his life story, he wanted some reflection from the hermit. The hermit never replied anything. He just told, "Come with me. Let us have a walk in my backyard." His backyard was quite big. Let us have just a stroll there. So he took that person and he was just walking on the backyard, and he pointed. So you just see that when I purchased this property, my backyard had a fencing. What was the fencing? It was actually the maple trees, which were very small, which were all planted on the fencing. And my previous owner, he felt, what's the need? Why use stumps? Why not use these maple trees as the stump? And on the tender maple trees, he nailed the barbed wire to make the fence. Now these trees have grown. They are all big trees. Now this hermit took this man near a tree which its growth is extremely curved, crooked. The trunk is extremely crooked. There are many curvatures. Now this hermit told, see, this barbed wire was going to be with this tree. There was no way the tree could get rid of it. And the tree, throughout its life, struggled. Why it should be on me? Why it should be nailed on me? And it was constantly struggling. That what I have done? That without any reason, something has been nailed on me. It was constantly struggling, and this result of this struggle, you find this crooked growth. There's lot of curvatures. And then he took him to another tree. That tree has grown straight, and the barbed wire has gone through the core of the trunk. It has passed through the core of the trunk, but the tree is straight. And now the hermit told, this tree, how it reacted? It somehow accepted the fact that it is going to be with me. I cannot in any way get rid of it. It is going to be with me. I have to accept it. And once you accept it, that it is going to be with me, now you find its growth is in no way hindered. It has grown straight, a perfectly straight tree. So what it speaks of, that how we react to the situation, that speaks of our well-being. Most of us go to the shrine or to the temple, and our prayers are what? Oh God, just help me to get rid of the suffering. But know it for certain, however we may pray for getting rid of suffering, to escape suffering, it cannot be. The fact of life is that the suffering is inevitable part of it. The joy and suffering, these polarities will be there. Our endeavor in life is not to get rid of the suffering, but to transcend them by knowing the way, by not reacting to it. All the suffering comes from that reaction. So that's the thing even in Bhagavad Gita we find, that whether you are working or you are contemplating, that's not the thing. Are you equipoised in each and every situation of life? And for that, to maintain that equipoise, you have to develop a sense of detachment. Are you detached? Has it become a habitual state of your life? Once it has become a habitual state of life, then you are an adept. Whatever you may be doing, you will find nothing can disturb the equipoise of your mind, the tranquility of your mind. And such a person is an adept. So after discussing this, now in the fourth verse, you'll find the same idea is being further explained by saying what? Bhagavan is saying what? Yada hi nendriyartheshu. Na indriya artheshu is nendriyartheshu. Yada hi nendriyartheshu na karmasmanusajjate sarva sankalpa sannyasi yoga rura stadochyate. So, there are two things. What? Indriya artha. All the artha means the purpose, indriya means the senses. The purpose of the senses. What is the purpose of the senses? To constantly perceive the sense objects, isn't it? So the artha, indriya artha means sense objects. So, when I start chasing after the sense objects, that's one thing. This nendriyartheshu karmasva anusajjate. And I am neither chasing after the sense objects, that's one thing. And another thing is, I am not hankering after the desires for the results of my action. Karmasu anusajjate. So one has habitually renounced all desires and is no more attached either to the sense objects or to the actions. Neither to the sense objects nor to the actions. It has no attachment. Then one is said to have attained that yoga. He has become sarva sankalpa sannyasi. Who is sannyasi? Who is a monk? The word sannyasi means samyak nyasa is sannyasa. That renunciation, not partial renunciation, complete renunciation. That all the desires has fallen off from your life once for all. It has become past tense. How is it possible? When you can relinquish sankalpa. This sankalpa is a technical word. You will find behind the desire that sankalpa is always there. That let me have it. That in the last class we were giving that example. You are passing through the shopping mall, you see some coat hanging in the hanger, in the showcase. So it is something separate from you. You are separate, that is there. In no way you own it. But seeing that, first that thought comes. Let me have it. Let me have it. So this, let me have it, this is the sankalpa. And then the desire comes. Then I go, I have to buy it. Any means I have to buy it. If I don't have the money, okay, if there's a provision for buying it by installment, yes, by installment, I have to buy it, and then it becomes my own. So first I take the resolution, that resolution is followed by the desire. So first comes the resolution, then comes the desire, and the desire is followed by action. So resolution, desire, action. So behind all our desire, behind all our action is the resolution. So if I can take care of the resolution, I try to go to just at the bottom of my subconscious mind, where the bubble is just rising in the form of sankalpa. Once it bursts in the surface, I have nothing to do with it. I have no control. But I can take care of it, nip it at the bud when it has just evolved in the form of sankalpa. So that's why in this sloka the word sankalpa is very important. Sarva sankalpa sannyasi. Renouncing all sorts of these resolutions from which desire arises, from which the action arises. So these characteristics of a yoga arura, the one who is an adept, who is established in yoga, arura. The word yoga is used for the novice as well as the adept. Each and every rung of the ladder of yoga is yoga. That's the practice also is yoga. The one who has got established is also yoga. So yoga arura, that one who has ascended the stairs of the yoga, of the journey of the yoga, he's a yoga arura. He's ascended there. So he's an accomplished person. So what are his characteristics? So he is he has habitually renounced all the desires for the sense objects, indriya artha, and he has habitually renounced the desire for actions, both. Now, from where these two arise? Here lies the very, very basic principle, the fundamental principle of Vedanta. What it says, how the desire arises, and the actions that ensues from the desire, that comes from where? They say that the conscious principle, the ultimate conscious principle, you call it Brahman or Atman, whatever you call it, that conscious principle is beyond all want, all need. It is eternal, it is ever fulfilled. But when it comes in association with the body-mind complex, it gets reflected as if on the body-mind complex. And now I get identified with the reflection and take it to be my identity. And then what happens? What's the result? I hear the echo of the self through the body-mind complex and get deluded. That delusion is in the form of ego. How can we define ego? We can define ego as ego is the echo of the self through the body-mind complex. Ego is the echo of the self through the body-mind complex. Let us try to understand it. I am standing in front of a mountain and I shout my own name. I shout out. And I find as if someone is calling me from the mountain, isn't it? It echoes back. And I may be deluded. If I don't know what echo is, I will think, oh, someone is calling me. It's calling my name. So, actually it is a delusion that no one is calling me. It is just the echo. Similarly, the self is constantly asserting, what's the fact? That I am eternal. There is no annihilation for me. I was, I am, I will be, without any transformation. I am as if in an eternal present. The question of past, present, future comes only when there is transformation. If there is no transformation, I am in eternal present. And I am ever fulfilled. There is no want for me. The self is echoing this, what it is saying, asserting these two things. I am eternal, I am ever fulfilled. Now this gets echoed when the self comes with the association of the body-mind complex. It gets echoed from the body-mind complex. Something from within me is saying, you're eternal, you're ever fulfilled. But I cannot realize it with my body-mind complex. It is a constant flow. And it has started, this delusion has started, what to speak of a human being, from a microbe it has started. If you see a microbe in a petri dish through a microscope, what you will find, when you give some nutrient, it is drawn towards it. It is drawn towards it. If you give some toxin, it moves away from it. So you find action has ensued. How the action has ensued? The moment I give some nutrient, now as the self has got associated with that microbe body, something from the microbe body is saying you're eternal, you're ever fulfilled. And to realize that eternity through the body, which is never possible, It is our unending chase for something which is never possible, because body is a flow. The self behind it is something which is imperishable, eternal. But it getting associated with the body thinks the flow to be eternal and tries to realize the eternity through that flow. So what it will be doing? Oh, I am eternal, so I have to keep this body through eternity. So I am drawn towards the nutrient. The body has to survive because something within me is saying you're eternal. So whatever is favorable for my body-mind complex, I am drawn towards it. It happens the moment the ego has been generated, that I am this body-mind complex. The moment the ego is generated, this desire comes, that whatever is favorable for its existence, as if that is my existence, that desire makes me move towards the thing which is favorable for my existence and move away from the things which is not favorable for my existence. So it finds expression as raga, dvesha, abhinivesha, either as attachment or as fight and flight response. If at last all the actions that ensues from the desires, if you try to find out, if you try to categorize, only these three categories you will find. Either we are obsessed by them, or we are responding to it in the fight and flight response. Nothing else. And throughout our life, that's going on. From the microbe to the human being. Everywhere. Actually, the entire evolution has happened because of that. In Vedanta, they don't deny the evolution. This evolution has happened. The moment the self gets deluded by thinking itself as the body-mind complex, it tries to realize the eternity through the body-mind complex. From that, the evolution starts. It's chasing after something which is not possible because of that delusion. And the entire evolution process is because of that. At last, as a human being, we are at the apex of the evolution, and we have the capacity to realize that this eternal chase was because of the delusion. I am already perfect. I am already eternal. I am already fulfilled. I am the self. Because of my delusional attachment to this body-mind complex, I was trying to realize the eternity, the fulfillment through the body-mind complex, which is never possible. It's a flow. But after all, I am not the body-mind complex. I am the self. So once I realize that, then this detachment is the first thing which speaks of our spiritual journey. It has to come. No more attachment to this body-mind complex. I am already the free self. I have nothing to accomplish through my chase for eternity through the body-mind complex. I am already that. So this detachment speaks of the inception of your spiritual journey. So the very first word of the spiritual journey is detachment. It has to come. And that's being spoken of here. The moment the sankalpa falls off, when that realization comes, that after all, I am already fulfilled, I am already eternal. So this constant sankalpa, this resolution to do this, to do that, from where it comes? From that ego. From that ego it is generating, that I am this limited body-mind complex through which I have to attain eternity, I have to attain fulfillment. So this constantly it is coming, that sankalpa is coming from there. So the one who has renounced that sankalpa by knowing that he is the self, ever equipoised, beyond all wants, beyond all sorrow. So for him, sankalpa stops. The moment the sankalpa stops, the desire cannot emanate, because from sankalpa the desire comes. And if the desire is not there, actions ensuing from desire, that also stops. So that's the idea which has been spoken of here. So who is the real sannyasi, renunciate? Not one who has physically renounced the so-called actions, the duties of life. It is an escapism. He is an escapist. He is not a true renunciate. He is most probably have a defeatist attitude. In this life, opposite poles look alike. I cannot see the very low frequency light, the infrared light I cannot see. Neither can I see the ultraviolet light. But they are poles apart. This ultraviolet light can burn my skin. It can cause skin cancer. And this is a very low frequency light, the infrared light. They are opposite poles, but both are invisible. So they apparently appear to be same. Very low frequency sound I cannot hear. Very high frequency sound I cannot hear. If it is more than 20,000 hertz, I cannot hear. If it is less than 20 hertz, I cannot hear. Similarly, a person who is constantly running away from life, because in life we all have to face trauma, and sometimes the trauma is inescapable. And when we face the inescapable trauma of life, the first reaction comes in what? That we learn helplessness. In the modern psychology they say it is learned helplessness, that I am helpless. I have nothing to do with the life. And from this helplessness you develop a defeatist attitude. And from that comes escapism. Oh, I have renounced everything. That's why Swami Vivekananda used to say that tamas comes in the guise of sattva. This extreme defeatist attitude sometimes we confuse as renunciation. But Bhagavad Gita, you will find at each and every step is making us realize the fact that renunciation means mental renunciation, not this running away from life. This running away from life is not renunciation. That from the mind you have got detached, knowing that you are the self, you have nothing to do with the so-called, the desires ensuing, actions ensuing from the desire. So you have relinquished all the sankalpa. And now as long as I am alive, I am just fulfilling the larger purpose of life. What's the larger purpose of life? There's only one life actually. There's only one life. If you see the way the life goes, as we sometimes say, the carnivores are very ferocious animals, they're cruel. But actually it is a plan of the life, plan of the world. How? See, the herbivores has to feed on the vegetation. And if they're allowed, they will just simply, if there is no predator, they will multiply. They will multiply and they will go on feeding on this vegetation. And a time will come, there's no vegetation at all. Because they have all, this overgrazing has been, because of overgrazing, the vegetation has been cleared off. Can life sustain? No, life cannot sustain. So it's a plan of the nature. The carnivores have been created to feed on the herbivores, so the balance is maintained. It's as simple as that. So when I say the carnivores are cruel, when I take each and every individual as an individual, then it is a cruel act. But if you take that life is only one, it has to be sustained and there has to be balance. Just the way the reason for which we do fasting, now it is intermittent fasting. Because it is you who will be feeding on your own cells. If you are not eating, then the body will be feeding on it and that way you will be enjoying health, isn't it? So the carnivores are there to really maintain the balance of this entire creation if you take life as one. If you take individual lives, then the question of this cruelty and other things come. Take the life as a whole, and you will find there's a meaning behind all the things. There's a meaning, wonderful meaning. Otherwise, life cannot be sustained. So that's the thing which we will find if you just study the Bhagavad Gita constantly, that at last Bhagavan as a Vishwarup, what he is doing. You will find in the 11th chapter, we haven't gone. It's a very fearful thing which Arjuna saw, that he is just devouring that all the individuals. Some of them are just half hanging, that half of the body has gone inside. He's chewing as is like this Mahakala, everything is devouring. That's the thing, you will get the picture from there, what it speaks of. That this is the flow which is going on. We, by taking ourselves as a separate, limited individual, don't understand that the tremendous work which is going on by the Creator, who takes everything as a one unit. It's not that we are all separate. And there everything has its own meaning. Everything has a purpose. But the moment I take myself as an individual, all the suffering comes, all the wrong notions come, all the fight, fanaticism, everything comes from the idea that I am an individual. It's totally segregated from the entire existence. The moment I understand that my body-mind complex is just a flow, there's a bigger plan of the nature which has to work through me. I am like an instrument. I am attuned to that, the idea of the divine who is working through me. I'm attuned to that idea. And so the work is going on without any expectation. That's the example which we give again and again, the common example. If the mother feels that I love the child, she is bound to suffer. A time will come, you'll find the child is not behaving as per her expectation. The child's way of life is not as per her expectations, and she starts suffering. If she knew that I actually have never loved the child, because the love which I have at the bottom of my heart, is it something I have developed? No. I found the moment the child was there, the love was there. God has made his creation in such a way that he has implanted the love in the mother's heart to take care of his creation. Isn't it? Anywhere, what to speak of human being? Have you seen any mother not taking care of the child? You go to the National Geographic channel, even the animals you will find. They are ready to, the mother is ready to give away the life for the child. There are so many such videos. What it speaks of, that our genes are altruistic. That Sahayagya Praja Srishtva, we studied in the 3rd chapter. When God created this universe, He created with the idea of interbeing, with the idea of synergy. Now, once your egoistic approach goes, then you find that through this body-mind complex, a bigger life is working. It's not just you. And now you being aware of that fact, that the life as a whole, as a one unit is working through you, you just become an instrument in the hand of the divine. You become a divine worker where you are not in constant pursuit of the so-called trivial desires arising from the petty ego. You are no more bound by them. So what it speaks of, that whenever we will find in Gita they are speaking of sannyasa, it doesn't speak of physical renunciation of action. It speaks of the tranquility of mind where the ego has fallen off and you have started realizing that you are just, your body-mind complex is just an instrument through which a higher force is working at each and every moment of life. And knowing that, you become just an instrument in the hand of the divine and allow all the faculties, use all the faculties to take care of the responsibilities in the best possible ways, and there it ends. I don't expect any result out of it. That's as per the divine plan, it happens. I cannot change that course. So now you will find this wherever in Gita they're speaking of sannyasi, it never speaks of physical renunciation. It speaks of the equipoise of the mind which comes from that utter detachment. So we will find that once you have understood that you are an instrument in the hand of the divine, you are an yoga rudha, you have ascended the journey of yoga arudha, you have ascendant, and actions can still continue, you being the nimitta, just an instrument in the hand of the divine. And why the actions goes on? For loka sangraha. These are all ideas we have to connect. We have already studied in the 3rd chapter. You just cannot say the 3rd chapter was something different and the 6th chapter is something different. No. All the ideas interconnected. They are idea of loka sangraha, that well-being of the entire society. That's the loka sangraha, integrity of the society. That was spoken of. That's the God's plan. He has made me the instrument for the integrity of the life as a whole. And I work without any expectation, just as an instrument in the hand of the divine with full resignation. So that's the idea which we'll find again and again is being enunciated in Bhagavad Gita. So now you may say, but one who has attained the state of samadhi, we have heard that when through meditation, following the this yoga, this path of yoga, the 8 limbs of yoga, yama, niyama, asana, pranayama, pratyahara, dhyana, dharana, samadhi. So one who has attained samadhi, is action something necessary for them? Well, just go to the spiritual history. Who are the most active workers? Have you found any more active worker? The way their action has reached out not only in their own time, even for ages together. Can you find a more influential figure like Jesus? Can you find a more influential figure like Sri Krishna, like Gautam Buddha, whose action has not only stretched out in their own time, it is beyond time. Still, it is influencing millions of people. So they were the greatest workers. But from where that work ensued? From the state of samadhi, from vyuthana. They went into a deep spiritual realization, state of deep spiritual realization. What has been spoken of as samadhi. From there, when they come down, that's vyuthana, we find they're always Brahma Bhuta. These are the terms in Bhagavad Gita will come. Is always established in Brahman, Brahma Bhuta. And they are Jivan Mukta. They are already liberated even while living. They don't have to die to go to heaven. In this life, they have enjoyed the state, the bliss of liberation. That though I am still in the body-mind complex, but I am in no way attached to it. I am always just the witness. I am just seeing what's going on without any reaction. That's why you will find there is no reaction, that even when some harm is done to them, they're always Even in Buddha's life, you will find the same thing. He is blessing the one who is the cause of his death. Even the person who gave him some food, the last meal, unknowingly it was a poison. Unknowingly, he never knew. He gave with full faith. But it was realized later that the last meal which Buddha had was actually some poison. What actually it was, we don't know what that food is. But it was something which was very toxic. And Buddha knew his days are near. And at that moment, what he is saying, that Sujata and this person, both as Chandaka, this Chanda and Sujata, both are same to me. Sujata was the one who gave the porridge, when Buddha was starving. He was on the point of death. At that time, Sujata came and gave him this milk porridge, after eating which he got rejuvenated and went to the deep meditation which took him to that state of nirvana. So that was Sujata was as if instrumental in helping him to go to the state of nirvana. He is saying Sujata and this Chandaka both are same. This Chandak is now helping me to go to the state of parinirvana, the ultimate nirvana. After the nirvana, my body was continuing. Though I knew I'm separate from the body, but the body as a flow was continuing. These ideas are wonderful. Just now, if the fan is there in a summer season when the fan is moving, how to stop the fan? You just switch off the fan. Does the fan stop immediately? No. When you switch off, the cause of its movement, the current, that gets disconnected, and the fan has its own momentum. Because of its past momentum, it goes on revolving for some time to stop ultimately. Similarly is the state of a Jivan Mukta. Once he go to that realization that he is the self, he is not the body-mind complex, many may say, then how can he continue with his life? Yes, the past momentum with which this body has started, that actually impels him to continue with the life for some time, though he has detached. He switches off. With the past momentum he is working. But whatever experience is going through his body-mind complex, that doesn't affect him because he knows he is separate from it. And a time comes when the past momentum is exhausted and then there is no more motion. Then only that stillness comes at last. And that's the state of parinirvana. So how Buddha nicely is saying, so Sujata was the cause of my nirvana and here Chandaka is the cause of my parinirvana. Ultimately, my all actions have stopped. Same in the life of Jesus, the same thing. When he is crucified, he is blessing them. He is praying for them. He is crucifying. Why? Because the idea that he is an individual has fallen off. He and I and my Father are one. It is God who is working through him. The Father is working through the Son. So this wonderful idea is there. Everywhere you will find that ego, the moment it has fallen off, that doesn't speak of going to the state of inertness. It speaks of the highest degree of action. But without any, in any way getting affected by those actions. He knows his self is separate from it. And such a person only can be the real effective worker. They never lose their equipoise. So that's the idea. Even when they are going to the samadhi, from that when they have vitthana, they come back. You'll find they're still in the world of action. Then are they not sannyasi? They are sannyasi. Because in spite of all those actions, in their mind, if you have the power to delve in that mind, you'll find it is totally detached. As Sri Ramakrishna used to say, they are like ripened coconut. When the coconut is unripe, it is impossible to separate the shell from the kernel. They are intertwined. When the coconut is ripe, you will just take and shake the coconut in your hand. You will find that something is moving within. The shell has got separated from the kernel, from the center, from the core. So a realized soul is like that, like a ripened coconut. He is in no way attached to the body-mind complex. In no way. He is constantly witnessing what's going through it, but in no way attached to it. He is observing the stream, but is not in the stream. He is not drenched by the stream. So this is the state which has been spoken of here in this sloka, which indicates the idea of sarva sankalpa sannyasi. Once you can renounce the sankalpa, then actions, first the desires fall off, and the actions that ensues from the desire, that also falls off. So this is the idea. So when we are saying this, we should always remember that the actions ensuing from desires falls off, but not the action itself. Because of its past momentum, action still continues. And now, he being detached, he can understand that what actually is the original cause of this action, sahayagya. That when from that ultimate reality, this world is projected, it is projected with the idea of synergy of interbeing. And that is enabling the body to work through. He is aware of it, but in no way attached to it. So with this idea, having this idea, but it's not easy to attain. It's easy, that's as Sri Ramakrishna used to say, tablar bol mukhe bola sahoj, hate ana kutin. It's very easy to say the rhythm of a percussion. When you have to, if you're learning percussion to play tabla or percussion, the rhyme, the rhythm the teacher will say, will repeat to you, and he will ask you to repeat. In 5 minutes you learn it. You can repeat it. Now he says play it. It will take months. It will take months. To bring it to the hand is very difficult. So after the scripture saying that to have that equipoise in your life is the ultimate goal, that speaks of your real sannyasa. Now in the next 2 slokas it will say that it is not easy. You have to make the mind your friend. At present it is your enemy. If you know the art of making the mind your friend, then you can attain that state. It's not just by hearing it, I listen it from the teacher and immediately I say that, I am equipoised. It's not that easy. Now you will find it is the mind which is coming on the way. So the mind, if you can discipline it, if you can make it your friend, you will find it is the greatest. No one is as great friend as your mind. And if you cannot discipline it, then it is the biggest enemy. So that as there is a proverb, they say, it means the mind as the master is the most tyrannical master, but as the servant is the most obedient servant. So that's the idea which will be spoken of in the next 2 slokas. So let us read the slokas. The 5th sloka of the 6th chapter. Uddharet atmanam atmanam na atmanam avasadayet atmaiva hi atmana vandhu atmaiva ripu atmana. So elevate yourself by the power of your mind. Uddharet atmanam atmanam. The first atmanam speaks of this body-mind complex, and the second atman speaks of the mind. So elevate yourself with the help of your mind. So elevate yourself through the power of your mind and not degrade yourself. Na atmanam avasadayet. Don't degrade yourself. Why? Know it for certain that for the mind can be your best friend. Atmaiva hi atmana vandhu. That is your biggest friend. And again, if you cannot control it, it is your biggest enemy. Atmaiva ripu. Ripu means enemy. Atmana. That your self can be the greatest enemy if you do not know how to discipline it. The same idea will be spoken of in the next verse. What it says? Vandhu atma atmana tasya yena atma eva atmana jita. That how the mind can be my friend? If you can win over the mind. If you have the control over the mind. Yena atma eva atmana jita. One who has conquered the self with the power of the mind. For him, this atma, the self, the mind is a friend. Anatmana tu shatrutve varteta atmaiva shatruvat. And for those who have failed to do that, the mind works like an enemy. Varteta atmaiva shatruvat, like an enemy. If anatmana tu shatrutve, if you cannot control the mind, then the mind is your biggest enemy. So what it speaks of, as we were speaking, that through the entire process of evolution, biological evolution, what was the reason? It was the delusion. That the self got deluded by identifying itself with the body-mind complex, that it is the body-mind complex, and it was trying to realize the eternity through the body-mind complex. And the inter-evolution happened. How? By chasing for the things which is several for its psychophysical existence, and running away from the things which is detrimental for its psychophysical existence. And this actually was a result for creating innumerable mental modules. See, that I like a thing, so whenever that thing is there for me, whether it is food or its relations, whatever it may be, my mind will have a particular response. For particular stimuli, there is a particular response. This stimuli response creates the mental modules. Innumerable such mental modules are there. And when I realize that I am not the body-mind complex, I am the self. Your condition is like the granny. Till now I was pampering all those mental modules. Till now. At a time, you know that only one mental module gets activated. You will find that at a time there is only one desire. The mind cannot have more than one thought, one desire, one feeling at a time. So, the scenario is like that during the vacation, during the holidays, all the grandchildren came and they are all sitting around you. You are sitting just on an easy chair and you want to relax, but you will find they all want your attention. They are constantly jumping from this. They all want to draw your attention. They all want to be pampered. So that's the condition of the mind when I have just realized that I want to be equipoised. As I was pampering them for so long, they won't leave you immediately. They will be constantly pampering you again. They're constantly trying to draw your attention again and again. You can take the example of feeding the birds. You were feeding the birds for years together. Now for some reason you think enough of it. I am not going to feed them anymore. Will the birds stop coming? They will still continue to come. With the idea that most probably today he has not given me any food, tomorrow he is going to give. For some reason he has not given, tomorrow again he is going to give. So they will come back again and again and again. And now this is the situation. Once I realize that I am the self, I am not going to pamper these mental modules, it's not going to leave you immediately. And this is the process of sadhana. Now I have to be quiet, not yielding to them, not responding to them. If I don't respond to them, what happens? For this first day they will come, second day the birds will come, third day they will come, and the fourth day they come, I think, oh, if they're pestering me enough, okay, let me give me little today. You give them a little, these grains on the fourth day. Again they have gathered strength. Fifth day, sixth day, again they will start coming. But if I have the perseverance and the patience, no, I have understood that this cannot continue forever. I am not going to. So you don't give it from the fourth day, fifth day, sixth day. Now gradually they start getting the feedback. They start falling off. So now you will understand the basic concept of what is winning over the mind. It's not easy. I have understood that I am the self. The scripture says, by my reasoning I have understood. But I have pampered these mental models for such a long time. Are they going to leave me alone? No. They are going to constantly go on disturbing me. I have to have that patience, that no, perseverance. That's Swamiji, that's why saying the entire spiritual journey can be described by 3P: purity, patience, perseverance. What it speaks of, that each and every attempt to keep your minds in sublime thought is purity. And I find it's not easy. Again, it slips back to its old ways. So again I have to bring it back. Pratyahara, bringing it back again and again. By constant conscious attempt, I have to bring it back. Even if I fail, once more time again I attempt. So this constant trying is perseverance. And it is not going to happen in a day or two. I have to have patience. So as we give an example, a stone, a very coarse stone is lying on the river bed and the water is flowing, the river water is flowing over it. At any moment of time you see there is no change. It looks like a coarse rock. But in 100 years, that becomes smooth. The Shivalinga which we worship, for 100 years the water flowed over it, and at last it has become so smooth. It has become something adorable. What it speaks of, that the mind is not going to change in a day. We sometimes get lured by the advertisements, that crash course on samadhi and sadhana and all those things. It's not that easy. It's impossible. We have to endeavor. We have to endeavor a lot through this journey. And that speaks of the process which has been spoken of, disciplining the mind through purity, patience, perseverance, so that at last the mind becomes my friend. All these mental modules, they get the feedback. In no way we are going to be pampered anymore. They start falling off, rendering you freedom. So that's the thing which has been spoken of. We will try to elaborate on these two slokas a bit more again in the next class. These two slokas are wonderful. It speaks. Actually, Bhagavad Gita, when you are studying, you know it for certain. Each and every sloka, if you reflect, can take you to that ultimate spiritual goal which we are, have to attain in this life. And the process of it. It's all, that's why they are sometimes called mantras. Why these slokas are called mantras? The definition of mantra is mananat trayate iti mantra. If you just go through them and you just read the Gita once and say, I have read the Gita, it's not going to help you. Mananat trayate. You have to take one sloka, cogitate upon it, go on cogitating. And layers after layers of understanding you will find is opening up for you. And it takes you to that ultimate wisdom. So mananat trayate. Trayata means to get liberated. Mananat, by cogitation, by constant cogitation, it takes you to that liberation. That's why all these slokas are like mantras. You go on cogitating, and that will take you to the highest liberation. In the present age, most probably Swami Vivekananda knew that it is the age of information. That's why he, 100 years back, while giving lectures, he was saying that we think what's knowledge? Gathering of information. If gathering of information is knowledge, then the library is the most intelligent person. All the books are there. And in the present day, your internet is the most intelligent person. All the information is there. He's saying no, not gathering in of the information is knowledge. What is knowledge? Take up one idea, start living it, dreaming it, let that become the be-all and end-all of your existence, assimilate it and transform your life. And then he's giving an example. You know how pearl is formed? That a particular type of mollusk, which is when it gets irritated by the sand particle, it will dive deep into the bed of the river or of the ocean and start salivating on that irritant, on that sand particle. And in time, its own saliva, like it will go on salivating over it, that saliva crystallizes to form the pearl. So Swamiji is saying that's what we have to do. That don't get lost in this information. Take the crucial, ideas, perennial ideas, and start contemplating on it. Just let your entire life as if is centered around it. Live it, dream it. Let it pass through your nerves, your veins. That's what the word Swamiji is saying. And that you assimilate it. That's the idea of nididhyasana. Till you are transformed, your entire life gets transformed. Your entire personality gets overhauled. Your paradigms, there's a shift in your paradigm. You become a total new person. Not outwardly. As Sri Ramakrishna again and again said, that if you become a Paramahansa, a realized soul, are you going to grow two horns? No. You look like any other person. Your perspective has changed. Your paradigm has changed. You will be looking like any other person. So you did not have to sit in a crown to show. What you say that you will find. They're wearing nowadays. That what's the sign of illumined soul? They're sitting with a crown in a singhasana with, those are not signs. Or walking on a ramp. No, there's no need for all those things. You look like an ordinary person. Ramakrishna in Dakshineshwar one day was plucking the flowers. A person came in search of Paramahansa. He was asking, he thought him the gardener. He asked, who is the Paramahansa? So he's asking the Paramahansa, because there is no external sign that who is the Paramahansa. So there is no such external sign. The total transformation happens within, and that's the message of the Gita. So with this, we stop our discussion today. We'll continue again in the next class. Thank you all. Namaskars.